Hello and welcome to section 8.8, the complex number system. So this is the last section in this chapter. So here we're going to look at a way to work with even roots or square roots of negative numbers. So far we've just basically stopped and say, it's not defined, it's not a real number, which is true, but it's really useful to be able to do algebra with those negative radicals because basically when they came up with this, there were problems in math that they couldn't solve, and introducing this complex number system, they were able to solve those unsolvable math problems, and also it made some of the math that they were doing a lot easier. Okay, so these are very, very applicable, even though you go, imaginary numbers, why would we use that? They're actually very useful in fields like physics and engineering, and that's why people study them. All right. So everything is sort of based on this imaginary unit I. So I is for like imaginary. So we have this definition, right? So we're gonna define I equals the square root of -1. Or if you square both sides, you say I squared equals -1. So this is a definition. Okay, so you take it as given. You don't need to prove it. It's just what I stands for. Okay, so basically, if b is a positive real number, so you're taking the square root of -b, then you can simplify this. Basically, you write this as square root of -1 and square root of b. And we define the square root of -1 to be I. So you have I squared of b, or you can write it as square root of bi. Because it's multiplication, it doesn't matter which order you write the numbers in. All right? So now let's do some problems. We're going to simplify. All right? So basically, now if you see square roots of negative number, then they're going to have an I in the answer. Okay? So square root of -25 means square root of 25 times square root of -1. This part is 5, and this part is I. Right? So the square root of -1, you call it I. Okay? It kind of makes working with the problems a bit less messy because you don't have to carry that square root of -1 around. Let's do B. We have square root of -7. So this is square root of positive 7 times square root of -1. So this is square root of 7 times I. Or you can write it as I square root of 7. Right, square root of -12. Square root of 12 times square root of -1. Square root of 12 is 4 times 3 I. So this is 2 square root of 3 I. And sometimes you see it 2I square root of 3. So again, it doesn't matter where you put the I, it's multiplication. It's just kind of different ways that people write them.